That's better. Hello and welcome. Dobry wieczór Państwu. Welcome to React Native Community Kraków meetup here at Software Mansion. My name is Kacper. I'm a software engineer here at Software Mansion. And this is 12th this type of meetup that we've been hosting. And I'm so glad that so many of you have came here because it's starting to come as a tiny conference rather than a meetup, but that's good, actually very good. So the agenda for today, lineup for today, is that we have, besides of me, 4 amazing speakers. I would say that's an app.js level lineup. I'm going to start with a short introduction, like a short showcase of what's new and interesting in the React Native world. I sure hope that I spark some conversations maybe during the meetup, after we have some pizza and beer, so something to talk about. Next one is Jakub Adamczyk, a software engineer at Phantom, which he will talk about Just Use Expo, how plain React Native and Expo compare in React Live projects. He will show us some challenges that he had to overcome when working with plain React Native apps without Expo, and how Expo makes it easier for us to build. Next one, the third speaker today is Krzysztof Magiera, our Director of Engineering at Software Mansion. The title is a bit cryptic, The Road to a Better Developer Experience. All I can say is that he's been cooking something, but I can't tell much. I've signed an NDA, not really, but this is going to be a game changer, I sure hope. And last but not least, Wojciech Lewicki and Krzysztof Piaskowy. They are our software engineers at React Native open source team. He made it possible for JS-based screen transitions in native stack with Reanimated. It used to be a huge pain point in native stack to create custom screen transitions. And now it maybe will be possible. I don't know. You tell me. So let's start. What's new in React Native? So first, React Native supports Vision Pro. So our friends at CallStack have been cooking something as well. They've been doing a fork of React Native that supports Apple Vision Pro devices. So that's a new and upcoming Vision mixed reality headset. And you could now build React Native apps on this platform. So the source code is open sourced and available to use. You can see how they made this. You can play around with the headset as well. And that's kind of cool to create React Native apps on this new platform, which this platform is a bit scary, but also exciting. Next one is Amazon has joined the game. So there's a big player. There's a new big player that has been embracing the React Native use with their lineup. So Amazon got added to the React Native showcase in React Native documentation, and it's now officially embracing that there's using React Native. So there's a shopping, Alexa, and so on. Alongside Meta, Microsoft, and Shopify, that's the 4th tweaks. So 5th grade big enterprise company that fully embraces React Native, which is good for us. Unistyles. This is a bit funny because the creator of Unistyles, oh, I'm going to break it back, is right here sitting with us. So that's cool. And it's using JSI, and he learned that during App.js workshop. I've just learned that. So that's cool. And I wanted to showcase Unistyles because it's a cool new way, I think new, a cool new way of styling React Native apps, which is very familiar to all React Native developers. It just looks and feels like normal style sheet with some superpowers. So same as TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript and adds some features, same Unistyle adds breakpoints and theming, media queries. That's kind of cool. Static Hermes, which has been showcased during React Native EU. It promises a native levels of performance in JavaScript, which is going to be a game changer if it comes to React Native. So very recently, Tsvetan, the software engineer at Meta working on Hermes, uploaded a performance benchmark on Twitter that runs on 120 FPS, does color changing, some inputs changing simultaneously, a game running in the background. That's insane levels of performance in just JavaScript. Adding that to React Native will make our apps way, way faster, but that's for the future. One of our software engineers created a cool demo and a future component to use, which is yet to be open sourced, but Markdown text input. So it's a rich text editor in React Native working on Markdown, which is done synchronously, because we have many problems with with the built-in text input component in React Native due to its asynchronously. This one is fully synchronous and can do some cool stuff. He told me that it works also on Android, but he didn't upload that to Twitter yet. But yeah. Last but not least, State of React Native. So we've been working on the second edition of State of React Native survey. Currently, it's open for questions, for suggestions. You can ask questions how we can make it better, what should we maybe change, maybe delete from the current survey. And the preview is open now, but the survey will be open, I think, the first week of December, something like that, beginning of December, yep. And that's it for me, but we are also always looking for speakers for this type of meetups. So if you have anything to share about React Native, maybe native development also, that would be very cool. You can screenshot or see this QR code. That's a Google form for applying to be a speaker for React Native Community Kraków. So next one is Jakub Adamczyk. I would like to invite Kuba to the stage. Yeah, say hi. Just use Expo, how plain React Native and Expo compare in real-life projects. Yeah. We need a 5 seconds of delay to change microphones. So let's do just that. So actually, I'm going to tell a story, because Kuba Adamczyk is our ex-employee. We've been working together at Software Mention in the same team. He's been also doing some client work as well, but he used to actually be my buddy. We call our buddies dzielnicowi. I have no idea how to translate that. But we've been working together, and I'm glad that he came today. And he came from Legnica, is that right? It's a couple of hundreds of kilometers away, so that was a trip. And yeah, pretty cool. Hashtag zawsze wracają. Right, ready?
Okay. Give me a second, I just want to move it around. Oh, yeah, it's visible. Cool. And play. Sure. So hello everyone, my name is Jakub Adamczyk. I'm a software engineer, like Kacper already mentioned. I used to work here some time ago. I was building mobile apps with React Native for around 4 to 5 years. That's quite a little, definitely not as much as some of the people here, but currently I work at a company called Phantom. Phantom is a cryptocurrency wallet company. If you have any questions about Phantom, I'm happy to talk with you. And Phantom also uses React Native for their mobile app. Like I mentioned, I used to work at Software Mention, and my title today is a bit cheeky. It's Just Use Expo. So I prepared this polarizing meme today with this bell curve. It's just a joke, nothing too serious. But I wanted to say that this talk is sort of my opinion based on my own experiences on projects that I was contributing to or just that I started. And I wanted to start saying that there's multiple ways to use React Native. Like you already saw Kacper speak, there are huge companies using React Native like Amazon, Facebook. And there's one way to use React Native is to build end-to-end products with it. So for that, you can write all your business logic like in JavaScript, your navigation lies in JavaScript, and you build it from start to end in like React Native and JavaScript. There's another way. You can just sprinkle a tiny bit, of React Native around a native app, for example. That's what the big players also do. You can just register multiple components instead of one. And you can also use it for other platforms. Like you can take a look at Facebook Messenger desktop app for macOS. This is a React Native app but built for desktops. What I'm going to focus on is building products end-to-end because this is what I was mostly working with. And all I can say that generally it's hard. There's a lot of challenges to that. And I'll try to basically go through a bunch of challenges that you can find when working with like plain React Native, but it's not only the case, it's general. And I will try to tell you how you can use Expo and how I discovered Expo to be solving a lot of those problems. So first problem, human resources. That may sound a bit cryptic, but trust me, it's pretty hard to find developers who specialize in React Native and can dive into Xcode, Android Studio, JavaScript, and do all of that. It's pretty damn hard. And I worked across multiple teams, and teams often consist of people from different backgrounds. For example, we have native mobile app developers converting to use React Native because that's what the company uses and they're driven by the company's mission and they want to do that. And you have web developers specializing in React who are just coming over to React Native to discover, for example, Android Studio and Xcode. And that's a big problem. For example, native mobile app devs may find it hard to start using JavaScript and the ecosystem, Node Package Manager, NPM, stuff like that. There's a lot to that. And web devs, as I mentioned, show them Android Studio, Xcode, and tell them to set it up, is a huge obstacle to onboarding. And another challenge is React Native maintenance. I can ask you how many of you upgraded React Native, because that's actually a pretty hard task to do. It's time consuming, it's pretty big distraction if you are working on a product. And it can be stressful if you are working in a fast-paced team, for example, and out of the blue, you are tasked with upgrading React Native version just because you need some feature which is only available to the new version. And you have to tell that it can take like a week or two because there are some breaking changes that you have to mitigate. All right, another challenge is build in local environment. So I already mentioned this a little bit, but as you start using plain React Native and having to set up JavaScript, Android, the environment, possibly with NDK, which is for C++ development for Android, and iOS environment with CocoaPods and all that stuff. It's pretty hard, and it's a big obstacle for people outside of this mobile ecosystem to learn and to onboard to. It's time consuming, and also it sometimes breaks because as you upgrade, for example, macOS versions, new iOS gets released, things break, new Ruby version might be required. There's a lot that can break in general, and it's also time consuming and can be stressful because you have not a working machine, right? Another thing is team productivity. When building apps, you want your whole team to be productive. and working on the app, focusing like on bringing new product features. And something like building release apps is crucial because you have to ship to users, not just development run in your local environment. But you also have to distribute internal builds, for example. Sometimes companies have QA teams. You want to do some dog fooding, so give people the application we build so that they use it and give you feedback on. You also might want to test pull request changes. That means building the application per pull request or just having something simpler for that reason. And automating it with scripts is pretty hard. This is a job on its own because we have DevOps people. But not always these people do this. You might find yourself writing some Fastlane scripts. And that's a lot. It also breaks. And also it's a big time investment. But I must say that it's a worthwhile one. Another one, dependencies. React Native and React projects have a lot of dependencies. With React Native, you have to be extra careful because you have to check whether the library or native module you want to use is maintained. There are definitely companies that we can say that are actively maintaining their libraries, and we see a bunch of people from those companies here. You have to ask yourself whether the library is secure. In my domain, this is especially crucial. I have to make sure that no one steals the funds of our users. And you must be sure that the library will work with the new architecture because, well, we are in the process of a big migration in the React Native ecosystem. And that's actually my my next argument. The new architecture is almost here. We are in the middle of that migration, and I think the choke point is the libraries. You might find yourself using a library in your package JSON that is old. You depend on this in some crucial screen, and if you want to use the new architecture, you might have to replace it. That's a pretty big task for sure, and a pretty big ask as well. Also, you need to be up to date with React Native releases. I already told about this. And usually you have a bunch of custom native project configuration, that is app delegate files, or main application.kotlin or Java, whatever that is. And you have some changes here. It's hard to keep up with it. And that's a bunch, definitely not all. I just wanted to give you a preparation, an overview of why it is challenging, but definitely worth it. But what about Expo? So I assume a lot of you know what Expo is, but I will try to explain a little bit. So Expo is this set of tools, I would say an ecosystem around React Native. React Native is just part of Expo. There's a lot of more services, tools that Expo builds that make our lives easier. And well, until recently, and as I usually thought about Expo, is that Expo was this two workflows, and they even call it that. The one is managed workflow, where you use an app called Expo Go. You just download it, and you just write JavaScript, and you have a mobile app, right? And this is pretty magical. But that has a lot of constraints. You can actually write just JavaScript, and you can do any native stuff. And if you want to do some native code, you have to resign from Expo Go and accept that you will have worse developer experience and go to something called bare workflow, which is basically using React Native as it is with just a bunch of Expo libraries, which are very good actually. And that's what I was doing a lot. And to compare that, I would say that with React Native you have a lot of freedom but a lot of responsibility. With Expo you have a bit less freedom, but you have way less maintenance. With React Native CLI projects, there's much more maintenance. And I would say the developer experience of React Native CLI project is not so great, especially for people who weren't working with that for a couple of years. And with Expo Go, managed workflow apps, the developer experience is pretty good. It's mostly great. With React Native, you have to juggle Swift, Kotlin, Objective-C, Java, JavaScript. And with Expo, there was a promise that you can just write JavaScript. But as well, if you have to change something in the native configuration, there's a native library with plain React Native projects, you could just dive into the native code and just add something, right? And with Expo, at least until recently, not so much. And React Native tries to build in, and as I did show you, Expo provides a lot of libraries. There's almost a solution for anything that you can imagine in that. But, well, some time ago I changed jobs, and I went from project which used none of Expo at all, to a project which embraced Expo to the fullest. And I want to show you some features that I think were truly like game-changing for me and when I learned about them. So first of them is custom dev clients. Apparently, you no longer have to resign from Expo Go if you want to write native code. And not only that, if you use plain React Native, you actually have to build the application locally, have the setup on your machine. And that is actually a bunch of time. Even if you have a fast computer, like the new MacBooks are, it's still like a couple minutes. With the older ones, it could be like a couple, 20 minutes even. And that saves time for most of the team. You can distribute that across team. But there's a new challenge, you have to distribute that, right? But I can give you a recipe. A Slack channel with latest message at the bottom is just good enough for some companies. Next one, config plugins. So I mentioned that upgrading React Native is hard, and actually I find config plugins a good solution to that. So with the new bare workflow, managed workflow, where you just use JavaScript, you keep yourself without the Android and iOS directories, so that is the native projects, but you specify like code mods that you want to apply, and Expo will generate, based on this API, it will generate the native projects for you on demand when you need them for building the application. So you don't have to manage that yourself, but you offload it to this automated scripts, right? Next up is EAS and EAS CLI. So EAS is Expo Application Services, and the CLI from EAS is a very sophisticated set of scripts that you can run locally with basically a Fastlane wrapper or just Android Gradle build wrapper. And yeah, you no longer have to write those Fastlane scripts for most of your use cases. You can use the hosted EAS service, but it is paid, and outsource your builds to Expo. That's even easier. But you can also use EAS CLI and just hook it up to your CI provider if you have some constraints on that. And just using it locally is also totally fine. And also it's easy to create new app variants. So before, when you wanted to create an application for developers or for internal builds, quality assurance, you actually had to configure that in the native projects and also somehow make it work with the JavaScript part of the project. Right now, it's just an entry in the JSON file. Next up is Expo modules. I haven't used that much, but it's a nice new API for Swift and Kotlin that, as far as I know, is based on JSI somehow. Maybe someone will correct me if I'm wrong. And from what I remember, these libraries are resilient to the new architecture, so they are agnostic of that, and you can stay assured that it will work with the new Fabric renderer and stuff like that. And the magical piece of Expo, the new Expo, I would say, is a pre-built command. So I already told you that using Expo, you resign from having iOS and Android directories, and that you keep yourself from diving into the native code. Well, for complicated tasks as memory profiling, just running the production app locally with Xcode, seeing the CPU percentage overhead of your application, you can actually run pre-built, do a couple of code modes so that you make sure the app runs. For me, it's usually like 3 to 5 minutes. And I have an iOS project or Android project locally. For the most of my time, I can stay focused on just doing the product. And when I have to, I can open native projects. And recently, I was just profiling memory, trying to find some memory leaks in Xcode. And that's great. So just to tell you how this new Expo, at least how I call it, faces the challenges. So the managed workflow, in my opinion, was always an answer to most of the challenges, but it had serious constraints. And the risk of having to resign from this Polish developer experience was actually something that usually kept me from using Expo in the managed workflow, and I embraced React Native, plain React Native usually. But right now Expo is more flexible and more modular, and the new bare workflow, the new managed workflow has very little constraints to the old managed workflow. And some of the constraints, I think, actually take some foot guns away from you, so you can't hurt yourself, and you are not wasting as much time. And comparing that to the slide I already presented to you, I think that less freedom is no longer the case. You still have less maintenance, mostly great developer experience. You mostly write JavaScript. At least some of your colleagues who don't want to dive into the React Native ecosystem can still write just JavaScript. And you actually can debug native code because you can use the pre-built command. And still, you get to use, by default, all the good libraries from Expo. And I basically experienced that at Phantom, because at Phantom, we use Expo for our mobile app. And Phantom started with managed workflow. And when I joined, Phantom was still using Expo Go and had a bunch of dev clients. And actually, you can, if you try to move like from the old way to use managed workflow with Expo to the new with dev clients, you can actually do this slowly, because if only some small parts of your code base use like some config plugins with native code, you can actually continue using Expo Go. And if you don't go to that screen, for example, which may be hidden in the application, it won't crash for you. And slowly you can transition your team to just using dev clients that are customized to your needs. And the team at Phantom is full of highly experienced and talented people, but from different backgrounds. Some people know React Native in and out. Some people know Android or iOS development in and out. And some are amazing React developers and JavaScript developers. And I can assure you that the way Expo works greatly fits that team profile. And I think a lot of teams are like that, because, how I mentioned, it's hard to find React Native devs in this market. Yeah, so we are using config plugins for our code, and I think that is the best of Expo. When I joined, actually, when I actually read the code base and onboarded, I told the CTO of the company that there's no better way to use React Native right now, and I still stand by that word. And my opinion about Expo changed. A lot of projects I started and I worked at, I was using React Native and I was resigning from using Expo because of the risk of having to go from managed to bare workflow and to resign from the developer experience and have to cope with much more maintenance. But I think right now, it's the best of React Native without constraints. And if you want to discuss it, find me on Twitter or X, and here right now. So thank you for listening, and hope you liked it.
Are you open for questions? Maybe you have
Yes.
some questions.
Sure, I mean, we can go with questions. Anyone?
Anyone?
Not really.
There is one.
There's one. Cool.
Is there any case where you wouldn't recommend using Expo?
For example, if you want to heavily use native code, because, well, having to do everything with config plugins is also something to be aware of. You are changing like the paradigm sort of, because you are no longer specifying and just changing your native project files. You are using some other API. Maybe it doesn't cover everything. But also in cases where you're just building a native app and you're a big company. Yeah, well, maybe you just want to use this sprinkle around method of using React Native. And for desktop, I think Expo doesn't support desktop unless this is Electron through basically React Native Web or something like this. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Anyone else? Don't be shy. Not really. Cool. So I guess we can catch ourselves afterwards in the happy hour.
Please, thank you.
Coś mi chcesz dać?
Okay, we have some time between presentations. So let me introduce Krzysztof Magiera to you. the man, the myth, the legend, the creator of Reanimated, gesture handler, screens. He's our director of engineering, and I think he is now ready to present, so let me not waste more time.
I'm the founder at Software Mention, and I lead most of our React Native related efforts, including the open source stuff you might have heard about or familiar with already. And today I'm going to talk about the road to a better developer experience. So last year we ran this survey, and Kacper also mentioned that today that there is another edition happening this year. It was called State of React Native, and we collected feedback from people using React Native on various different topics, but one of the topics was missing features. And the second most common answer for the question about the missing features was better debugging and profiling. So that's what people see as an important missing piece of React Native as a framework, as an ecosystem. And yeah, and I think like we all actually agree about that. Like if you look at how those things actually work on different platforms, different frameworks, and I'll show you some examples later on. Then it's like really visible that there's a lot of room for improvement in this area. So yeah, so let's maybe look first at how things work on Android. And when we talk about debugging and profiling, we can actually extend that claim to just like overall developer experience in React Native, which is still like something not in pair with other frameworks. And you can see it in the next slide. So this is how the experience look like when you start developing with Android. So you go to the Android website. There is an immediate link to downloading Android Studio. It's pretty big. It's difficult to miss. Just right here, you download it, you open it, and there is some few dialogues that pops up, asks you to download things. You agree as usual, and then you get this opened, create a new project, and you just get the IDE with your source code loaded, ready to go. And there is this one button here. You just click it, and then it starts the emulator. It runs your app, and you have like a pretty decent like initial experience, and also very good debugging experience. So you can just put breakpoints here on the side of the editor, and then when it hits the breakpoint, it just stops and just gives you a stack and all that stuff. So this is very nice and very useful. And we don't really have that in React Native. But like the grass is not always greener on the other side. So so people working on other ecosystems, they have their issues, like problems with the build system, or like how much RAM the application consumes, the IDE consumes, or dealing with the interface builder on iOS. So yeah, so not saying that life is really great if you're not using React Native. So there are other issues in other places. So yeah, so. But now let's focus on React Native really. So we saw that how it works on Android. It's pretty similar experience when it comes to iOS, for example. So you download an IDE. You don't really have to touch terminal, and you have like the whole experience is kind of enclosed in the IDE. And when you start with React Native, you go to the React Native official website, and you click on Getting Started, and then you get presented this page. So the good news is that this page is really short, and it kind of ends with that's it. So there are only like a few commands you need to run, which is pretty good. If you're familiar with terminal, this is relatively easy to get started. So the trick is that you have this tab here that says Expo Go, Quick Start. So this is actually instruction for just starting with Expo Go. And if you want to do something more complicated, then you switch the tab and then you get presented with this large text and like many things you need to install. So you need to install the whole iOS environment, you need to install CocoaPods, you need to install other things that you don't really understand because you're just getting started with React Native, so you don't understand all those things you need. And then you switch to Android and it's like even longer. So by using React Native, you not only really need to learn React Native when you get started, but you also need to learn the tool chains or like the tools that people use when developing for iOS and when developing for Android. This is good if you are already familiar with that, but not necessarily really good if you're not. So we're just coming as a first timer. And so once you actually get through all of that and you run this command, you need to use terminal, of course, because there's no ID. And then you start this in a terminal, and then it opens a new tab in terminal that says Metro, and like you don't really know what that is because you don't know what Metro is. And then this Metro actually starts a server on a certain port. So if you have two projects, you cannot really run them in parallel. So you need to really have a lot of understanding about all the internals of the framework before you actually get started building anything. So when it comes to debugging, so this is what you actually do, right? Everyone does this. So this is the most universal way it works everywhere. There is no debugger experience, and that's how you debug in React Native, right? Not quite. So there are a couple of other options, right? So there is this OG debug JS remotely option. Have anyone here used this option ever? Like, are you old enough to be using this? No. Okay. No one uses? Oh, there's one person over there. Yeah. Yeah, some people use this. So this option was there since like the very early days of React Native. And the way it worked was that it would actually spin up a separate kind of VM that would work inside of a web browser and then connect to that web browser and pass all the communication between the JavaScript VM and React Native. Just past that, the bridge was actually like working over the WebSocket and then passing all the the commands there, and those commands would execute outside of your application container. They would execute in Chrome, and you could actually use the Chrome DevTools thanks to that. So it's pretty nice workaround. I'd say that stick around for quite longer than we really needed. But like once React Native started adopting JSI and synchronous modules, Reanimated is one of those actually. Then you couldn't, you would not be able to use this option any longer. So we needed to find a new way. So there is Flipper, right? So yeah, there is a lot of hate about Flipper. Not saying it's not deserved, but like the fact is that Flipper failed to deliver on promises it should. And the best testament about that was that I was actually trying to get a screenshot of Flipper. I haven't used it in a while, but I opened it and then I saw this. So this is how Flipper looked like. But then I actually reinstalled everything. I removed, I cleaned cache, whatever, restarted my computer, and then I finally managed to get you a screenshot from Flipper. So Flipper is actually a standalone application that you run, and it connects to React Native. It is rich in features. So you can see the logs. You can see you get the debugger. You also have access to React DevTools there. So in theory, it should be very convenient, but then it's still not really integrated in your workflow. You need to have this separate app that you need to run, and it has its own problems. So so as I mentioned, Flipper kind of failed to deliver on the promises, and even it's not really longer considered to be the future of debugging in React Native. So the great thing about the React Native survey that we run, the state of React Native last year, and we're running this year, is that people can give feedback, and this feedback is actually being considered. And it's not just us who read the answers, but also people at Meta. and people at Expo, and people who can really make a lot of impact in the ecosystem. So at this year AppJS conference, Alex Hunt from Meta introduced this new debugging one-click workflow that's coming. It is actually coming up in the React Native 73, hopefully really soon. So this actually gives you a kind of like a new experience that connects with the actual VM that runs on your device. There is just one click. You need to open this developer menu. You click Open Debugger, and it actually opens you with the new window that is kind of like just part of the Chrome, but it actually runs as a standalone process, so you don't really need to. It doesn't overlap with the Chrome you might be using on your computer. It's pretty convenient, but it's still not integrated. At the same conference, there was another great talk. I really recommend the Alex's talk and also this one from by Cedric. And Cedric talk was about debugging and specifically about the VS Code Expo extension that they built at Expo. And what this extension does is actually allows you to have debugging, but inside of VS Code, which is much greater experience because when you put breakpoints, you can actually also make updates in your code, and then you don't need to flip between two applications to do single task. So that's very convenient, but can we get something better? Can we get like anything more than those things? Those things are great, and it's great that there are improvements. So at Software Mention, this is a nice photo actually taken here in this room. This is a React Native open source team at Software, except this guy in the middle, of course. He's not a part of the team, and this is just a part of React Native open source team, really. So those are people who are building Reanimated, screens, gesture handler, and other things. And over the past years at Software Mention, building developer tools have become like a really important part of our culture, really. So currently we have like around 30% of the time, of the development time we spend on building developer tools. So we have plenty of experience in this area, and we feel like this is really something where we can make impact. So that area is really important for us. And this is, for React Native open source, we have over 20 people now who are actively contributing to improving developer tools in React Native, including maintaining libraries, building new libraries, stuff like that. But beyond that, we also have other teams who work on that work on development tools in areas like blockchain or multimedia. So this team is actually like very important part of our company culture, and this problem is also something. The problem of the developer experience in React Native is also something that we finally decided to tackle. And so, as Kacper mentioned, I was working on one project for a couple of months now, and wanted to do a live demo of the tool that we built and how we see it evolving and hopefully changing the landscape when it comes to developer experience in React Native. So I'll be doing live demo now, and I haven't done that in a while. So hopefully everything will be smooth. And I'll just exit this. I'll close this. I'll close the terminal. I'm not using terminal. I mean, I really love terminal, but this is too small, I think. Yeah, so this is a React Native project that I just opened. I've cloned it from GitHub. There is this guy, he's even here because I cloned it from his GitHub, Simon Grimm. Thank you for this example. He posted that just a few days ago. I was actually preparing another demo, but then I saw he's posting some video tutorials, React Native, pretty good stuff. And I saw that, and I figured I would just try using this for the demo. So I fetched his project. I opened it here, and so this is pretty much like a clean React Native project. And what you can do in VS Code is have this thing just run side by side. So we have this kind of a embedded simulator. It runs kind of displays inside of the VS Code, and the goal is for this to integrate with your regular workflow. So it opens the app. So what happened when you saw this spinning thing? It was actually building the project for you, installing the CocoaPods. You don't why people really need to know about CocoaPods even if they just want to run React Native. So installing everything you needed, installing node modules, installing CocoaPods, building the project, configuring Metro, setting up Metro on a separate port such that it doesn't confuse people when they start second instance of the the project and they want to run something. So Metro runs there, but it runs like on an ephemeral port. And everything is just set up for you to do things here, and instead of thinking what you need to install and how to even get started. So we get that. You can of course just click on things here, right? So you can click things. Yeah, there is this nice application that this is like an Airbnb clone. I haven't written that code, so I don't really know the application. And if I want to change something, I don't like the sign-in text here. I'd rather have it login. So I click here, inspect, click here, and it just opens the file on the sidebar. So this is the integration that we're talking about. We want to have a seamless experience for you. So you tap on an element, and it just moves you to the code where this element is defined. So I didn't change it to login, and then it changes here. Pretty good, right? No? You like it? No. So there are other things here. So for example, there's this scroll thing, but it just highlights when I don't like this experience. When I try to just scroll it highlights immediately instead of letting me scroll without this effect. So I can click on this inspect here. I click on that guy, and then it opens the the component where this is defined. And what I should use instead is borderless button from gesture handler, of course. That's how I solve these problems, because I really need to have the native buttons here. I save it, and whoops. Yeah, you no longer have that. Cool. So nice thing about this project that Simon built is that it uses Expo Router. Are you familiar with Expo Router? Anyone used Expo Router? Tried Expo Router? No? Yeah, we have some people here. Right. So in Expo Router, every kind of screen is bound to a route. So once we know that, we can actually do something about it. So, oops, something broke. But yeah, so what we have here is the URL bar. So you have URL bar with the history where you were before. So you can change screens from here. You can go to profile. And of course, when you flip here, it just changes, right? So when you open it here, it changes. This is also a pretty nice feature. You also have the back button here if you need it for some reason. Yeah, this is really nice when you use Expo Router. Cool. What's next? Debugging. So we talked about debugging, and there's this button here. I press it and then nothing happens. How do I know what should happen? I don't know this code base. I click inspect, I go to this button here, and I see that this is like a touchable, and that just does nothing. So I'll add something, right? I need debugging. I need some debugging. So I'll do console log something. Yeah, and now I'm debugging really. Yeah, I'm clicking on things, and then the logs are appearing. I don't know why it's actually changes the size when I do this. So yeah, so in our IDE there is this button here. It just appeared. Yeah, I have it just divided by different sections so that I'm not demonstrating everything at once. So there's this button here. When you click on things and logs are being generated, it actually integrates with the console in the IDE. So you have things like filtering here for free, right? So you can filter logs. You can also just, oops, if I close it, oops, why is it here? I don't know. Okay, so when I do this, then it opens the file where the log is being printed, right? So this is nice also because like it's kind of native to VS Code. We haven't had to do anything about that. It just works like this. And it's very convenient as well. So you easily, if you have, a ton of logs your application is generating, it's easy to find the places where you need to delete them or just locate the place where the log was generated. Yeah. So this is for the logs. But once we built this, we started thinking what else we can build. And we built this nice button here with a magnet. So what the magnet does, it actually gives you this functionality that we call follow. When you enable it, it tracks the files that you visited when you were editing things. So now when you are at this file, I edited it on this screen. But then when I change to this file over here, or I change to this file, it goes to profile. And I change to this file, it actually navigates to the file where you edited the given file. So it kind of keeps track on things where you edited them, such that when we want to change something, you don't need to remember where was the screen where I was viewing this particular component. So this is the follow functionality. All right. So what's next? We have those buttons over here that just appeared here. So it's really convenient to change some things about the settings of your device. So just testing it with some different text size, or changing the light mode, dark mode easily from here instead of going through the settings. So apparently this app doesn't really do anything about the light mode except from just the status bar changing. But yeah, you can easily see that how like changing the font size impacts the screen and how it renders and how it handles the change of the text. So that's also another convenient feature here. And so we talked about debugging, and really not everyone apparently is satisfied from just being able to log things and seeing the logs. So we also have the debugger integrated here. So once you run it, it just runs the debugger, it connects the debugger, and you have the full experience here. So you can set breakpoints. I said it before the presentation. And when it pauses, it shows this thing, and then you can resume it from here. Yeah, another thing that's really convenient, you can inspect things, stuff like that, or just see the stack trace here, stuff like this. It's regular things that should be normal, but just weren't really this accessible before. So there are more buttons on this application. So there's this one button that I broke. So when something wrong happens, instead of having the red screen of death in React Native, you get this. So it just pauses in debugger. It stops in the place where the exception was thrown. It tells you, hey, the collapsible was null, and this is because this ref wasn't really being set properly. So I can set it here. I can set it here. I'll resume, and now I can click on this thing, and it works. Nice. Okay, so I have one more thing to show. So the last one is something I think from what the project actually started. So we wanted to build this. We have this inspect. So there's this component where to search bar, which just displays this part. And we have this package here that's called preview. And when you use this package preview, you can actually just call it here with the component name. And then this button appears. When you click on it, it just opens this single component in isolation. So when you want to work on styling things without being cluttered by everything that happens in your app, you can use this functionality. So it supports of course you can change things here and they update. We can do this, for example, and have some variants of this component. So we can have time, week, and have another copy of this for the day. And then when we click on this, then it opens, oops, there's this unnecessary thing here. Yeah, so you can change between those different options, and like every single component that you have, you can actually put inside that preview and have it kind of work in isolation. Of course, yeah, when you want to go back, you just do this thing and it opens the app again. Yeah, that's almost everything. Oh, this thing appeared here. Wow, didn't notice this. So there's Android. So this everything that I showed, whoops, it also works on Android. I messed up, I think, because I should have really removed the maps, because this project, I don't have maps configured for Android, apparently. Yeah, so that's why it crashed. Okay, yeah, it happens. Sorry about that. I need to reset it now. Yeah, so this is still pretty early project. We hope to start, practicing using it in the production projects very soon. Yeah, I was meant to show Android. Where is it? There we go. So hopefully now this will work on Android as well. But anyways, yeah. So that's everything I had prepared for today. If you have any questions, I'll be around for the happy hour after the presentations. And yeah, thank you so much. And we hope to see Android render. It doesn't look as nice on Android though, so that's something. I mean, that's not a problem with the tool, but the problem with the application code, and maybe the fact that I removed things from it in order to make it render. Anyways, thank you so much, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the presentations.
Thank you, Krzysztof, so much. Our next speakers are very close to me, quite literally, because they are sitting next to me in the office. One of them, Krzysztof, he is the lead developer for Reanimated. We are joking around that he is the godfather of Reanimated because he knows the code the best. The second speaker, Wojciech, he used to be my mentor when I first joined Software Mansion, working on screens. Wojciech created most of the features in React Native screens that we use today, but now he's maintaining React Native SVG. And yeah, are you guys ready?
Probably. Oh, works? Okay. Say something, Krzysztof. Okay. Nice.
Okay. Please welcome them with a round of applause.
So, as we can see, we have plenty of time, so maybe start with something different. Okay, so Wojciech, could you show our guests any go-back transition with native stack? Could you show?
Yeah, I totally don't have it prepared here, Android is okay?
Yeah, it's okay. Why not?
Okay, so let me see. So, a swipe on Android. Ooh.
Yeah, but
is it nice? Do you like it?
Not really. It's a bit boring. Could you have something better?
I can try.
Show me what you got.
Check it out.
Yeah, and this is exactly this. Okay. So. Okay. I am Krzysztof Piaskowy, and this is my colleague Wojciech Lewicki. Wojciech, this is a man behind the React Native screens. He is responsible for bringing many React Native libraries into the new architecture.
And Krzyś is the guy behind the Reanimated, so I think it speaks for itself.
Okay, so today we would like to share a bit information about our new upcoming feature. Gesture-based reanimated animation for transition between native screens. Okay, it hasn't been released yet, but we want to give you a sneak peek about what we are currently working on.
Okay, can you hear me? Nice.
Okay, so the feature proved to be a rather hard multi-dimensional problem because we wanted to add it to native stack. So we have the custom native transitions that we have to cope with. So it's the React Native screens. At the same time, you want the gesture to be the main driver. So we needed the React Native gesture handler. And at the same time, we want the animation to be, native, high FPS. So React Native Reanimated was an obvious choice for this. And the toughest part of the integration between the libraries proved to be the integration on the main thread, because we are changing the layouts and the view hierarchies underneath. So we want to do it on the UI thread. And so what we had to do is to get all of our 3 core libraries to work closely together for the first time, and not only use them, but to use their full potential with all the tricky stuff, that is needed to make it work correctly. But fortunately, we wrote those libraries, so we are pretty aware how they work underneath. And since all of our open source team sit closely together, the guys from Screens, from Reanimated, from Gesture Handler, it was rather easy to just, recognize all the bugs and problems and fix them on the fly. And I think that, for someone working on it alone, it would take months to do it. So in the end, the user gets a simple declarative API, and all the hard work is done by our framework of libraries underneath.
When it comes to API, let's dive into a quick overview, how to use it and how easy it is. As we mentioned earlier, this is a collaboration between our 3 main libraries: Reanimated, Screens, and Gesture Handler. Let's start by focusing on React Native Screens. This code is actually pretty obvious. If you want to switch between screens, you need at least 2 screens on stack, yeah? Let's move on. Okay. Let's add gesture handler part to our screen stack. To enable listening for gesture events over your screen, you'll simply need to wrap your stack with the recently introduced gesture provider detector. This allows you to easily incorporate gestures into your application. Lastly, to achieve a smooth screen animation, you need to bring Reanimated into this mix. You have to specify the trigger that initiates the screen change, as well as the animation you want to apply to it. By combining Reanimated with Screens and Gesture Handler, you can achieve a smooth screen transition effect that feels just like a native animation.
Okay, so let me show you what gestures are available within the API. And we will start with the basic default swipe right gesture. Then we can switch to the RTL style swipe left gesture. And we also have the swipe up. It's mostly connected to bottom sheets, I believe. We also have the swipe down one. It's mostly used to just dismiss the modal. And at the end, we can combine all of those to have a multi-dimensional gesture if you want to. And of course, since our libraries work both on Android and iOS, this is just available out of the box. Okay, and now let's jump to our second demo with all the basic stuff shown. Okay, so what I have to do, change the application. You want Android or iOS? We can work on both. Okay, Android. No. That's something you don't see every day there. Okay, so swipe right on native stack, swipe left, swipe down. Nice. And swipe up, all of it. So yeah. But that's not all. Stay focused.
Of course, those animations are highly customizable. You can create own animation if you want. The only limitation is your own imagination. To create your own animation, you need to create transition object that contains two worklets from Reanimated and pass it as a transition animation property to screen that you want to animate. First function describes an animation for the top screen in the stack, and the second one defines the animation behavior for the screen below the top screen in the stack. Now it's the time for a live demo. Some people argue that doing a live demo is a bit risky, but we think it's become a bad idea only if your code doesn't work. Okay, we will see. So let's change to demo 3. I will make it a bit bigger. Okay. It's enough.
Yeah. Did you refresh? Is it the one?
Just for sure. Okay, so as we mentioned, we need to create a custom object that defines animation for our top and background screen. Yeah, we pass it here. Okay, those functions accept two arguments. First argument, this is an event. Event, this is a data from gesture handler, and basically this is an information about position your finger on the screen. And the second one, this is just a screen size. Okay, right now, and one thing, those functions are called on each frame of animation. Okay, and right now we don't have any animation, so the transition will do nothing, but let's see. Okay.
Yeah, it worked.
Nothing. Okay. But let's start make a magic. And okay, so let's add a horizontal movement, yeah, along with my finger. So let's add transform. Okay, not this one. Transform and translate X.
Okay, and this will be applied to your screen, yeah, the top one.
Yeah, exactly. And the value of this translation will be event.translationX. Okay, let's quick refresh just for sure. And it seems to work.
Nice.
But it's nothing special. We want to some fireworks, yeah. Let's add some maybe, I like rotation, so let's make effect like a swiping a card, for example, in application called Tinder, yeah?
Don't ask Chris fiancé how he knows that from Tinder.
Just a research
Animation,
purposes,
but yeah.
just a research. Okay, so let's add rotation.
Is it rotation or rotate?
Okay, so
I don't know. It's your stuff.
rotate, okay, just me spelling. And I think 20 degree will be okay. Plus deck, okay. But let's make it movable and add and multiply this amount of degree by current progress. So current progress we can calculate by, let's make it.
So it's typical JavaScript. You add a number and a string, and everything works. Yeah.
Yeah, it's simple math, yeah.
Okay.
What you don't understand.
Okay.
I don't understand. Okay, so let's use current X position and divide it by screen size width. Okay, and we have...
Yeah, so you've got the translation of the finger divided by the width of the screen. So
Yeah.
it's like how much of the screen have you already
Yeah,
pushed?
exactly. And the domain of progress is from 0 to 1. Okay, and let's see. Okay. It
Yeah,
seems to work.
nice.
But still, But this is still not enough for me. I want to make something with this background screen. So let's add also some transform, but maybe a bit different. I would say the scale will be some kind of zoom in effect.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and zoom in effect with 30% of scale. So let's make it 0.7 plus 0.3 multiplied by progress.
Okay, so you started 0.7 and you add the current progress till it's 1. Yeah?
Yeah, exactly. 0.7 plus 0.3.
No idea. Yeah.
Something about 1, maybe 2, yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, it seems to work.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
Getting better.
Okay. Seems to work. Okay.
Show iOS.
Oh, it's
They won't
working
believe.
also on iOS.
It always works on iOS. Android is the problem.
So for iOS, this is nothing special, yeah. But for Android, this is something new, yeah. Okay.
That's all? Yeah.
Almost work, yeah.
Okay. So at the end, let's jump to the future. So what we're aiming for in the next iterations of the project. Could you swap? Okay. So you are probably familiar, if you've got Slack application, with the forward swipe. And what you can do is that you can go back to the last dismissed conversation by swiping in the opposite direction than normally, as you can hopefully see on the video. And we want to make it possible in native stack also. And it for sure will be a tough task, but you know, tough was never a problem for us, so yeah. And what else? The swiping is not the only way to dismiss a screen. You can do it without the gesture, for example, with the navigation go back method, or just use the native buttons, such as on iOS you've got the header button, and on Android there's the swipe gesture, like the native one, or just hardware button. And we want to add the animations there also. And the last one, what about simply going forward? You can call navigation navigate or navigation push to do it. And we don't want to leave you with the like predefined native stack transitions. We want to add also some reanimated custom animations there. So hopefully it will be there. And the last question, when all of this is coming live, Chris?
What I can say soon.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's all from us. Thank you for your attention.
Listening.
Yeah. So yeah, it's almost complete. If you've got any questions, we can answer them now. So feel free to do it.
Guys. Yeah, questions. If you have some questions, anyone? No, nothing? Really? We have some time left. Oh, one from Cuba.
Oh no.
Are you planning to somehow these values which you have on transitions to make it able to incorporate them in screen components as well? So that you can use the value of transition progress to animate components on the screen as well.
Yeah,
so that they can do something.
It's actually available right now. It's screen transition progress.
Yeah, there's
property.
screen transition progress, but you also can't you use the right value, for example, to get those values and just use them anywhere you want? I think.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
This is workless, so you can do basically everything with related to Reanimated.
Okay. If you want to ask some more, we will be there for the beer, but only one, I think. So yeah. Thank you all once again.
Okay, so that was the finish of the official part of the meetup, but we still have some time to the pizza, and I welcome you to grab some beer, to maybe talk to other people, if you want. If not, stay in silence. But thank you for coming. Thank you to all the people that watch us right now on YouTube as well. And see ya. I'll be seeing you. Bye.